says, you know what? We'll take Aaron Rodgers back. Reunite him with Mike McCarthy. Take a listen.
The door's open to have Aaron back. You know, I've had conversations with him. I spoke to him last week. You know, Mike McCarthy spoke to him, and you know, he knows how we feel about him. And you know, right now we're proceeding. You know, he's a free agent and he's not on the roster. So, but he knows how we feel about him.
Okay. Should the Steelers want him back?
No.
Oh.
What are they doing? I mean, you might be right that the goal is 9-8, 10-7 every year.
Relevant.
Period.
Yep.
That's it. Because look, Aaron Rodgers could come back next year and maybe they win 9 or 10 games. Maybe. All right. I'm not convinced that they would. We'll see how Mike McCarthy is. But they would have no chance of getting to the Super Bowl next year. And then going forward, it would make things worse because you probably have a better record with him than without him. Maybe you have a bad year. You try Will Howard, he doesn't have it, and you have a bad season. But guess what? The 2027 draft class is supposed to be full of quarterbacks. Maybe you get your future quarterback. Okay. What in the world are they trying to do? And I would think, Nick, with Mike Tomlin walking away, the fans had wanted to get rid of him anyway, a lot of them. Maybe they're ready for a rebuild year. Just one bad year, and then we'll be right.
They didn't hire a young coach they want to grow with. They hired Mike McCarthy, and this is kind of related to the question, but I just want to be on the record on this in related to Steelers quarterback situation. I do not understand why we act like Will Howard is viable. People are like, well, I know they really like Will Howard, and he was a good college player. The kid was a 6th-round pick. And he's not Tom Brady.
So is Tom.
He's not. He's not. It is. There is nothing about.
We didn't think Tom Brady was Tom Brady.
The Steelers' quarterback plans should be predicated on anything to do with Will Howard.
Shador and Will Howard, late-round picks.
It's just none. I just don't get it.
I mean, give him a look. Maybe he's not the guy. I'm just saying you're right. We heard his name.
Yes,
he's on the roster.
I liked him at Ohio State.
We heard his name after we heard 187 names taken in the draft. Then we heard his name. So I agree with you, Brew, that I think, you know, taking your medicine for a year, in trading T.J. Watt, doing the, you know, having a conversation with Cam Hayward, like, hey, you're a future Hall of Famer at the end, so we don't want to ask you to play elsewhere, and you're still really good, but what's best for you? Do you want to play on a team that's going to be rebuilding? That's what I would do. If that's not what they want to do, when I read this morning on Twitter that there is some belief that Malik Willis could get $30 million per year in this market, I'm like, oh, geez. Well, if it's that much of a seller's market for quarterbacks, then and you don't get Malik Willis, or you don't want to, I think $30 million for Malik Willis is that's a lot, and it's really tying yourself to him based on an awesome few games. I understand why Aaron Rodgers stopgap when here are the other options. Daniel Jones, but we think he's going to be back with the Colts. Mm-hmm. Right now, Tua and Kyler are not actually available, and I don't think would be materially different than Aaron Rodgers. And then it's the names that Barnwell listed in his great, manifesto about the offseason. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. No. It's Kirk Cousins. It's Justin Fields.
Justin Fields again?
No, not for the Steelers. Oh. He's just listing quarterbacks. And so I understand why a fallback safety option, if it's like there's no quarterback in this year's draft that we want to take a first-round pick on, and we are trying to be competent next year, why they would do it. And this sounds like silly analysis. I just would not prioritize being competent in 2026. I would prioritize playing my young players, cleaning up my books entirely, trying to stockpile picks to try to build the next great Steelers team rather than keep this streak alive independent of Tomlin of us never being bad.
They are not going to do that.
Seeing what Will Howard is. He fits into that.
Yeah.
See what he is.
Mike McCarthy is going to try to win every game. He's not. That's not the direction they made.
And Mike McCarthy should try to win every game. It's Omar Khan's job to make sure. That's very hard to do.
You know what? Wild.
And they should sit down and have a powwow about this. Like, look, Mike, you're not getting fired if we go 2-15. All right, Omar, you're not getting fired if we go 4-13. Whatever.
Let's have the youngest team Let that be our brand. We have the youngest team.
The youngest team and the cleanest cap sheet starting in 2027. We're eating our dead money medicine. We're eating any bad contracts we have. Anyone that's over 30, anyone that wasn't born in the 2000s, you're on the hot seat, buddy. Like,
Patriots GM Elliott Wolf had a hot take at the Combine. He was happy going to the Super Bowl and having his sophomore QB was a vote away from winning MVP. Did a great job. And made news, made headlines. Take a listen.
I mean, satisfied is a tremendous understatement. Drake made a ton of progress in a lot of areas, not only at the start of the season, but throughout the season. And, I think people forget that he's 23 years old and there's been a lot on his shoulders and there will continue to be with the expectation that it has being a quarterback for the New England Patriots. But I'm just really excited about him, his toughness, his competitiveness. He's always the same guy. There's obviously areas on the field that he's going to improve and he's going to work with Coach McDaniels and Coach Grant and get those things taken care of.
Full story. When this question was in the doc, I wrote, I don't think anyone agrees with this. We should probably do Sean Payton giving up play calling or something. And
you want to do a Davis Webb story is what you want to do instead of talk about your quarterback.
Anything but this.
Is Drake taking a step forward or back in year 3?
Well, look, a few years ago, I nailed this situation. When Brock Purdy, coming off the Super Bowl appearance, left the field with the lead.
Yep.
4th in MVP voting.
You did not.
Higher
Crazy
than
passer
Trevor's ever
rating.
been. Crazy passer rating. I said he will be a better quarterback next year, but his stats, he won't be fourth, top 5 MVP.
What evidence do we have that he was
Nailed
a better
it.
quarterback?
He fell off a little more than I expected, but I think he's a better quarterback.
I agree.
I'm sure Brock would say, and Kyle Shanahan would say he's a better quarterback
I don't
today.
know that he would say those
This
things.
is going to be the case with Drake. He's not going to be second in MVP, I don't think. All right? His numbers, will he have a 113 passer rating? Probably not.
Okay.
And I don't think they're going to win as many games. Obviously, the schedule's tougher. But he is going to learn from these playoffs that you've been rightly criticizing him for. I think he's going to learn from that, the struggles in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, be better with it. A second year with Josh McDaniels. The receiving core, I would expect to get bolstered. So I just think everything around him is going to be better. Vrabel obviously is a good coach. And Drake will be a better quarterback next year and have a very good year.
So listen,
now numbers
Nailed
might not
it.
be the numbers. He was second MVP.
Well, then it's a take that's impossible to be wrong on, because if what we're saying is he could have worse numbers, look worse, the team could be worse.
Well, look worse. I testified, so look better.
But Purdy looked worse.
There's
than
an
that
eye
in year
Purdy
three.
fell back too
Year
far.
3, yeah. This year you could
different.
argue, but yeah.
Right, year 3.
I was
right.
I was
All
tongue in cheek.
he looked worse, numbers were worse, team was worse, and we're still saying he's better because he's more experienced. Then there's no way for it to be wrong. But since you brought up Purdy, and I knew you would, just a reminder for the audience: Purdy's year 2 versus Drake's year 2. Very similar. Drake had the better record. Purdy had, their numbers are almost, it's 113 rating versus 113.5. 33-13 versus 35-11. Drake has him in completion percentage. Purdy has him in yards per attempt. Yards per game are almost, it's within 10. And then a reminder of what year 3 for Brock looked like. Now, I'm not anticipating this for Drake, but it was a precipitous and massive decline across the board. And one way, KW, that the NFL is very different than the NBA is player progression is very typically non-linear. Like NBA guys, they usually do just get better. Their numbers get better. They are more productive every year. In the NFL, it's a lot of fits and stops on an upward trajectory. And so I think across the board, he will take a step back next year. I think he will not look as eye-popping on the deep passes like he did early. I think his numbers will take a huge hit. I think the team's record will take a huge hit. And I think there will be some, particularly early in the season, real scar tissue from the playoff run and Super Bowl and what that did to at least his early season confidence. It doesn't mean he's not going to continue on.
You think he's going to have less confidence going to the Super Bowl than if he had lost against, Justin Herbert?
No, not than if he had lost in round 1. No, I don't think that. But I do think that he went the entirety of year 2 leading into the playoffs, you could argue, without really having a bad game after week 1. Like he had gone 16 weeks in a row without a bad game.
Yeah, even his bad games.
And certainly never had back-to-back bad games. And then probably feels like he had 4 consecutive substandard games. And so
you're off the top 5 quarterback right now.
Right, correct. Yes,
okay.
I am.
Because for a while,
I was.
going
yeah, but
in.
I didn't.
Okay, that doesn't sound like a top 5.
No, it doesn't. I didn't.
definitive-
When I was saying he was going to be a top 5 quarterback, what I did not anticipate was the most fumbles in the playoffs in league history, one of the worst completion percentages in a playoffs in league history, and what I thought was 4 straight bad games.
Okay.
And so that's.
We can agree to disagree about 4 straight bad games.
Yes.
Considering he threw 3 touchdowns against the Texans, which is more than I think Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and maybe somebody else combined. Another great quarterback.
Certainly somebody else.
Lamar.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Another good quarterback.
in the playoffs.
Yeah, find somebody. But you wouldn't, if you could get into a time machine, week 15, you wouldn't say, you know what, I'd rather have the Drake from last year than this year.
No.
Okay, that's what. But he is. I think he's going to be better.
So you think he'll be a better quarterback?
No. Oh, I thought you meant year 2 versus year 1.
No, year 3 versus year 2.
Oh, yes.
I know it's weird to talk time machine, but-
I don't think he will be better next year than he was this year.
Okay,
I
think
don't know
he
how
will
else to say
definitely be better. Definitely be better. There's 4 reasons guys fall off, and you guys can add them. I'm just making this up. Injury, obviously. Some sort of mental block, which maybe he has some scar tissue. Personnel changes, your O-line or your receivers.
Sorry. Go
And then I say organizational changes.
Gotcha.
You lose your OC, you lose your coach. Outside of that, I think he's going to be healthier. He had his little bum shoulder.
Why though?
Because he had a bum shoulder in the Super Bowl, and then he's not going to have a bum shoulder week 1. I mean, maybe he gets hurt in week 10. I don't know.
No, okay,
but
go
I
ahead.
assume
I'll
he's
let you
going to be
finish.
healthier.
I'll let you finish. Sorry.
We didn't have any changeover at any of the major positions. I assume actually we're going to get better for personnel, and mentally I think he'll be fine. Here's the issue where I was wrong with Drake Maye, because he's very young, right? He's actually, Cam Ward turns 24 in May. Drake Maye turns 24 in August. If you think Cam Ward's going to be better, you think Caleb's going to be better, I think you should think Drake Maye is going to be better. But I got a little bit over my skis, and I betrayed one of my own values. And Brew, I think you'll like this especially. I do like experience. I like an old doctor. Like
An old pilot, yeah.
An old pilot. Not too old on the pilots, but I like the old doctor, Moonlight Graham style. If they fall dead of natural causes while they're checking you out, I'd be like, I'm okay with that. I don't like the young doctor come in. I'm like, are you assisting someone? I like the old doctor. So I got over my skis when I was like, hey, Seattle, you are facing a more dynamic, more accurate version of Matthew Stafford. I was wrong about that.
You think?
Drake Maye has played a total of 33 games. Matthew Stafford has played a total of 256 games. I almost want to say I have, underestimated the 220 extra games that Matthew Stafford had played when it comes to looking at defense. But I assume that I think 12% of his games have been playoff games. He's still a pretty raw product, and that he will immediately be better.
So here's where I just disagree. And again, will he know if there was a 100 question test on quarterbacking, would he get a better grade, week 1 of this year or in the training camp this year than he did last year? Yes, I think he'll know more. Do I think he will process faster than he did? Yes, I think that is all still developing. But at some point, sports are a results business. And if I think across the board, by the objective measures, he will be worse, I think that would be weird to call it a step forward. And I disagree with your list of the reasons people, the full list. So the first one you said was gets injured. Right now he plays a style that is prone to getting banged up. And we saw the tax on his deep, hunting the deep shots, what that can be. So that's the first thing. What was the second one you said?
I did organizational changes, coaches.
Right. That's obviously going to be fine. Another reason guys take a step back is either teams have figured out, it took a good defense to go up against the Drake Maye, Josh McDaniels combo to solve it for us, but some of those defenses put some stuff on film that the teams that were playing the regular season did not. And they're the same way when Vic Fangio 5 years ago was like, hey, against Mahomes, what if we just play, cover 2, shell, and make them solve it? So I think that is a piece of it.
That's a little bit of the chess match. I buy that.
And I also think the other thing that can be is it's just, oh, man, we have so many more good teams that we have to go through. And what we have not seen is Drake Maye thrive. I'm not saying he's played poorly in every spot. Thrive against the best teams. And so given the fact that your schedule appears to be laden with the best teams, that adds to my concern.
I buy all of that. I want you to, since we're trying to get younger now, keep the same energy when I have to hear a chorus of how, I don't know why, Caleb will just automatically be better.
Because
he'll just
I
be
don't
better.
think Caleb was that good last year. That's the difference.
So then Drake Maye has to wear a Drake Maye tax for going to the Super Bowl?
No, but the question, If the question were, who do you think is going to be better next year, Caleb or Drake? That is very different. Than Caleb could take a step forward, Drake could take a step back, and Drake still be ahead of him. So these are different things.
Okay. I feel like I've seen a lot of Caleb is going to be better.
No, I am not ready to say Caleb's better than Drake Maye. You haven't heard me say that since he was playing at USC. But what I do expect Caleb to take a step forward because I think Caleb was intermittently spectacular and largely inconsistent last year. Drake was the paragon of consistency. And so
I might be fighting a battle against not people that aren't on this show when I hear Caleb is going to be better on this, and this, and he'll be better than Drake Maye. I'm like, well, why doesn't the same thing apply to Drake Maye?
No, I think that's a fair critique to have. But if Drake Maye was an A student last year and Caleb was a C+ student, and we're going into next year and it's like, hey, I think Drake's going to be not quite as good and Caleb's going to be a lot better, that could be an A- to a B+ in Drake's favor.
We've landed on an okay place, I guess. Raiders have the first pick. Oh, this is why Hub's in my ear. He wants to do some Raiders talk. Raiders have the first pick and put out hey, we're always listening to offers. We didn't do that story, though. They're taking Mendoza in. Their conversation moved to, if he starts Week 1, should he start Week 1? Take a listen to the Vegas GM.
I think you want to have as much pressure, or limit the amount of pressure you have on that guy from the start. Now, if you have a young quarterback, I'm not necessarily in favor of running him out there right away either. So, another quality player that can play the quarterback position, if you have a young quarterback, and obviously a great offensive line, a run game, all the things that can limit his chances to really get killed.
Eek. Brew, you want to start on Week 1?
Look, I like his attitude. We're not automatically starting him just because he's the number 1 pick and presumably our franchise guy going forward. We've seen guys develop at different rates. Now, he does have some traits that make me think he might step right in. He's, 3 years of college experience, playing at Indiana. You didn't, week in, week out, you didn't always have the superior talent around you, right?
That's right.
A lot of times it was inferior, your receivers, your running backs, your line, and stuff like that. So that's good. And obviously he's a very smart player, has enough athleticism, processes quickly. So he might be ready to step right in and be effective. But I like the attitude of I'm not forcing him in there. Because Sam Darnold's an extreme matter, but there are a lot of other players. Drake Maye didn't start right away, all right, for Jacoby Brissett. So Mahomes obviously didn't start right away. I'm sure both of them could have, but they took their time with him and were patient with him. And he's going to, right now, what was a bad team last year. So maybe it's best. Now, I'm not against him going out there and struggling. I'm just saying, if he's not checking all the boxes that make you feel like he's ready in training camp, Throw Geno out there.
Well, that's
Let Geno, and if Geno's bad again, then week 7 or 6 or whatever, you put Fernando in and you go from there. Or maybe it's longer. Maybe he sits a whole year. I'm not against that.
I totally agree with you. And I also think some of it, it's not entirely about how ready he is. It's also about I was obviously dead wrong about the Raiders last year, and Geno was not good. But also, that offensive line was arguably the worst in football. That, to me, some of it was Geno was bad, but a lot of it was Geno's bad, but a fair amount of it was the offensive line. I still think Genty's going to be excellent. We'll see. I think he was drawing very thin with that O-line. If the Raiders are not, if they're spending number 1 pick on quarterback, excellent offensive linemen very rarely come available via free agency. Free agency, they have a lot of work to do there. So I'm not opposed at all to, even if Fernando's like, man, I think he is ready, saying, hey, let's give this offensive line some time to gel and mesh and figure that out, which is why if I'm the Raiders, I do not cut Geno. I say, and Geno has, I think, the exact right disposition to help a young quarterback. And so I think Geno, he has a good contract with them. I think he would be a good soldier in that regard. And
I don't know if Geno thinks he's past his prime.
I don't think so. He thinks that either, but I think he understands if you take a kid number 1 overall, that my time here is ending. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.